So if you're hearing that music, it must mean that it's time for Tell Me Something Good. And I have a guest today that's going to totally share something good. I was fortunate a while back when we were able to meet in person. Larry and I were on a panel together, and I heard him speak, and I heard how he's using social media to grow his business. So Larry, Genet, it is your chance to tell me something good.
Thanks, man. This is awesome. Appreciate it.
So, for the sake of my audience, tell them a little bit about who you are. I know that you're a South Florida native, which that in and of itself is kind of bizarre. So,
Yes.
tell us your story, who you are, what you're doing, and then we'll get to the good stuff about how you're using social media to crush your industry.
Awesome. Yeah. So appreciate you having me on the show. Big fan. So CBRE is the company I work for. It's a Fortune 500 commercial real estate firm. Is actually the largest commercial real estate firm in the world. My team is a team of 8, and we focus on the sale and leasing of industrial and office properties throughout South Florida. We have about 12.5 million square feet of exclusive listings in South Florida.
Wow.
Some of it's for sale, a lot of it's for lease. Luckily, we're pretty full on most of our assets, so not a ton of vacancy, but we do have some spaces that kind of roll from time to time, and of course, always looking for new business. So we're active, we're out there getting it done. We won the top commercial team of 2019 in South Florida from NAIOP. Which was a big deal. That was, I think, the second time we've won that, which is great. So, yeah, we're out there, we're rocking, we're trying to get it done.
So, a little bit of your pre-story. Like I said, you are a native, so you went to high school here. Give us a little bit of the backdrop of how you came to be in the real estate business.
Sure. Of course, the hospital I was born in now is condos, of course.
Wow,
obviously.
of course. So,
that's Allison Island. That's okay. So, yeah, born and raised Miami Beach. Third generation from South Florida. My parents are both born here. My father went to Beach High. My mom went to Coral Gables High. My grandparents moved here in the 30s, late 30s sometime, early 30s, somewhere around there. And always been in real estate. So I've had a front seat view of the real estate market in South Florida ever since I was a little kid. I've always wanted to be in real estate ever since I'm 5-6 years old. So it's just something that I always wanted, and I was always around because my family was always involved in it. So yeah, it's been a nice run.
Good for you. So I obviously know of you through all of the stuff that you're doing on social media. When we had that opportunity with South Florida Business and Wealth, I got to see you in person and say, wow, man, the stuff you were putting out there was smart. It was genuine. It was authentic. All the things that I look for in social media. So share with me how you've grabbed the ball and run with it. Obviously, it's available to everybody. Your industry is not known as one that would be out in front of it. So,
Right.
I'd love to hear kind of how you got to where you are, self-taught. What's the story?
Sure. I think, like so many other things that work for people, it was kind of a mistake in the beginning, and you just sort of fell into it. This was not a plan of mine to become some social media, mouthpiece for the industry. And in fact, there's been plenty of blowback internally and externally, because when you're doing something new that nobody's really done before, you're going to have a lot of that, which is fine. And I'm certainly not complaining, but yeah, it's been amazing. So, I started on LinkedIn probably 2 years ago, just posting an article here and there, like little bits of information, and really no context, no text, nothing. And I noticed it started to get picked up. And it was in the early days, so the algorithm was much more generous back then, and the views were much more abundant, I would say. And I noticed that nobody else was really doing it, especially in industrial real estate in South Florida. There was zero talking heads out there on social media in that space. So I just kind of went all in, hired an editor who's amazing. And I have, people follow me around with cameras when the time is appropriate, or I'll just use my iPhone because the camera on there is fine for what I'm doing.
Right.
And I just started to go heavy about a year and a half ago. And since then, now I'm over 20,000 followers, all in commercial real estate or areas surrounding commercial real estate. So it's all people in my world that really matter. It's not just some random guy from like Texas that, would have nothing to do with me. So I think the quality of my audience is really, really strong. A lot of CFOs, CEOs, CIOs, chairmen of boards, different fund investors. So significant people that really matter in my industry. And I'm happy to take all the views, and I'm happy to grow my audience as big as it'll allow. But there's been a really targeted focus on people who are significant within my industry, because I'm not just talking to talk. I want it to mean something and go somewhere. So yeah, just really pushed it hard, and it's grown into like a beast.
Yeah, it's I am obviously a student of the game. I work with companies and leaders working on how to use social media to grow their business. Most of the stumbling blocks happen when it comes to content. You seem to have a really cool mix of content. One that is noticeable to me. Some of the pillars of that are, you talk about your support system, your family, the other people that work with you, which I admire, and that is a point of connection. So I'm curious how you came to like letting that out there, because a lot of people get really caught up in, oh, I'm private, and like, give it up, let's go.
Right. Yeah. I am not by nature an extrovert, which I think most people would find odd. Why is this guy on social media spilling his guts pretty much every day? But he's the quietest person in a crowd of people. So it's just not natural to me to be the loudest person in the room. That was never my style. Anyone who knows me or is friends with me, back in high school would even tell you that. But I just noticed that there was an opportunity and a gap in the market. And I do have, an abundance mindset, and I want to do something significant with my life, with my family, with the people I work with. I really want to push, and I owe it to them to do as much as I can, as fast as I can, all the time. I also owe it to my community, because the better I do, the better my community will do, because I'm very involved in that side of it as well. So I owe it to a lot of people to do everything I can. And when you see an opportunity like that, you really should take it. So I took it. And yeah, I mean, every day, what really pushes me and motivates me is my wife, Jessica, my 3 kids that I love so much, and my team. Between all of my team members, some don't have kids, but between all the ones that do, I have 13 kids as my team members' kids.
Wow.
All together. So that's a lot of mouths to feed. That, I think about that, and it's important as a co-head of the team with my partner Tom O'Loughlin. Like, that's important. It's significant. I feel responsible for those kids, and I want to make sure we all do as well as we can. So with that in mind.
Well said. That's really well said. So the burning question that everybody has when it comes to real estate is, wow, a lot of people are not working in their offices or whatever. They could go doom and gloom. You're not a doom and gloom guy. The reports, the things that you're putting out there, business is happening. It's happening at scale. So give my audience, if you will, while we have your attention, what's going on? What's happening? How has, the last 8 months affected what's going on, and what should we expect going forward?
Yeah, it's certainly a mixed bag. Some industries were hit really hard, especially in my core focus, which is industrial real estate. Obviously the cruise lines and the airlines, which are big drivers of our economy down here in South Florida, which is a consumption-based economy and tourism-based economy and housing-based economy, have taken a lot of wind out of the sails for sure. They're not growing, they're not expanding like they were. And the companies that have contracts with them obviously aren't growing and expanding. So that's been a real pain point for us. On the flip side, if you're in, a housing related industry where you're selling fixtures for houses, appliances, if you're an HVAC contractor, an air conditioning repair company or installation company, all those companies are doing super well because people are home and they're breaking everything and they're renovating. Even patio furniture companies are doing very well right now generally because people are redoing their patios and outdoor areas because they're out there a lot more. So it's been a story of some issues on one side, but then big explosive growth on the other. So for me, in my focus, it's been really important to pay attention to where the opportunities are for my clients to help, buy properties that maybe aren't doing so hot and bring a different take to it. Or on the other side, focus on the tenants that are in the market that are expanding and are growing for our vacancies. So we're actually focused on both ends of the spectrum for different reasons. And in general, it's been really rough. I mean, it's been sad to see what's happening. It's a terrible thing, obviously, and a lot of people are really hurting, and my heart goes out to them. And my team and I are trying to do everything we can on the charitable side to, make an impact. But the same thing that's happening to the public is also happening in commercial real estate and in business. Retail and hospitality obviously have taken a really big hit, although it might be overblown, and those things will probably come back sooner than most people think. But on the industrial and logistics side, the more people order from Amazon, Wayfair, Home Depot, and et cetera online, I think the better industrial real estate will do, and the more growth you'll see in that space. So e-commerce has been a big silver lining for us.
Yeah, Amazon seems to be taking over tons of real estate everywhere you go. So that's pretty well said. So obviously you're very successful, but I like to ask this question, like, what's the secret sauce that makes Larry Genet, and why do people buy you? So that's a good way to promote yourself to my audience. Why, because you're in as competitive a space as anybody I know, why you?
Yeah, it's definitely got its challenges from time to time. It's a great question. I mean, I could go back to the advice that I give, and I mentor and coach just for free a lot of junior brokers from all over the country. They reach out. I ask them to reach out on my platforms. I tell them, call me anytime. I'll help you with whatever you need. And sometimes they grab me, and sometimes they can't get me, and they just stop asking. But the ones who are persistent get me, and that question can be easily answered in the coaching that I give them, which is go to a big firm, join a big team, and create a lot of value for them. I think that's why we're successful, and that's why we've continued to grow. We're at a great firm with a great brand. We have a big team with a lot of infrastructure, and we've invested heavily in ourselves. And I've been at this since, like I said, since I'm a little kid. I got my real estate license, right out of high school. But it's taken a solid decade for me to sort of get where I am. So it was not an overnight success kind of thing, and it never is, as you very well know. Yes. So what you see in the moment took, years to build out. So I tell people to be patient, to work really hard, to be aggressive. When you find an opportunity, jump on it. If you fail, so what? Nobody's going to remember in 6 months anyways. So that's been my philosophy. Join a big team, work really hard, create the value, work at a big firm. And then, if the big corporate environment doesn't work for you down the road, you could always leave, go off on your own or whatever. But that's been a huge part of why we're so successful.
I love that. And I'm really glad you went to that mentor thing, because you've been very public about one of the guys that joined your firm, and you're sort of coaching him through social media. Some of the interviews, some of the questions have been amazing.
I do that.
And it was really one of the reasons that prompted me to reach out, because you're selling yourself and your ability to coach through coaching one of the guys on your team who has seemed to just taken it and run with it. So, like in our final couple of minutes, can you speak to that? I mean, is your team growing? Are you adding new people? Yeah. Because what you're doing with him is super special, and that guy should feel very, very lucky that because he seems like he's in it.
Yeah. You're talking about Mike Goretzky, and he's fantastic. We grabbed him. He was in research at our firm for about a year. A spot opened up on the team, so we just grabbed him, pulled him over, and he's done fantastic. And I do tend to do that. It can go both ways, though. If you're screwing things up, I'll also put it out there as an example of what not to do. So got to be careful on my team, because I'll be vocal about it. It'll be constructive, but I'll be vocal about it. I like taking real life examples, even if it's random Tuesday and it just happened, and just kind of putting it out there for people's benefit. Because one of the ways that I was able to be successful maybe a lot faster than a lot of other people in my industry who had to put 20 years in before they reached a certain level, or 25 years, is because I took a lot of people around me. I took all their mistakes and I just really focused on trying not to duplicate them. And then I took all the little best nuggets from each one of those people and I made it a core part of our business model. And that just really spurred things on much faster than would have been normally possible. So if you join my team, if you're on my team, I'm very vocal about you. I tell it like it is. And if there's something we need to work on, then I put it out there and we need to work on it. It's the same conversation in private meetings. So I'm not outing anyone randomly, but on the positive side, I definitely like to let the world and the market know how great of a team we are, how well diversified we are, how well built out we are, because a lot of brokers in the industry don't spend a ton of money and resources on building out a big team unless it's tied to a specific account or something like that. So we invest in ourselves ahead of time for the hopeful benefit of receiving more business on the back end, and it's worked out really, really well. So yeah, if you work for me, you're out there whether you want to be or not.
You know, it's really cool for me. And I just love hearing. This is the benefit of being in my seat, hearing successful people. And regardless of the industry, if I didn't know what industry you were in, I would still say you're successful because you have that routine, you have that process, you're doing all the right things, you're willing to do the work. In our final minute, you've done so great on social media. What would be tips, one or two or a couple of tips that you would throw out to people who are afraid to jump in the pool and start swimming? What would be a couple of tips that you could leave our audience with?
Yeah, don't think about it. Just do it. Just put out content. Even if it sucks, it doesn't matter. You're going to get better. You'll learn. My first video was literally a robot voice overlaid on still images that panned the screen. So I posted it before. It was, 8-9 years ago when I posted my first real property tour video. It's truly pathetic. So I would say don't be scared. Nobody's going to care or remember what you did so many years ago. They're only going to care and know what you're doing for them right now. So don't think about it. Be vulnerable, be authentic, tell the truth, and try and be a little bit different, a little creative, and don't always be selling. Add value.
I knew that you would be a great guest, and you did not disappoint. Really, your energy, everything about you, there's no surprise that you're successful. If you ever need anything from me or want anything from me, even if it's just for an actual in-person cup of coffee, I appreciate you spending time. This was fantastic, and I hope you get a lot out of it when my audience is reaching out to you. So thank you, Larry G, and you stay on the ball.
You got it.
All right, man.